My name is Claire Bennett. I am 31 years old, and last Christmas I did something my family still talks about today. They say I ruined Christmas. They say I embarrassed my father. They say I walked away when my family needed me most. But what they never say is why I left. They never talk about the 12 years I spent standing in the same kitchen. The 12 years of cooking, cleaning, serving, and pretending I was happy. They never talk about the money I spent saving their home. They never talk about the fact that everyone expected me to give everything while nobody ever asked what I needed. Last Christmas, my father told me my brother's 25 friends were coming over for Christmas dinner. He said it with a smile. Not a worried smile. Not a thankful smile. A smile like he was giving me a simple task. Like ordering lunch. My brother stood behind him with his arms crossed, already knowing my answer. They expected me to cook. To clean. To decorate. To serve every person. And then wash every dirty plate after everyone left. Just like I had done for 12 years. I looked at both of them. I smiled. And I said yes. But that night, I drove to the airport, boarded a plane, and flew to Hawaii. What happened when 25 people arrived at an empty kitchen changed my family forever. And what my aunt said in front of everyone finally forced my family to see the truth. I lived alone in a small one-bedroom apartment in Maplewood, Ohio. It was only 40 minutes away from my parents' house. Close enough for guilt to find me. Far enough for me to breathe. My apartment was quiet. Real quiet. There was no television blasting from the living room. No footsteps from someone coming downstairs asking what was for dinner. No voice from the kitchen reminding me how much work still needed to be done. For the first time in my adult life, my home belonged to me. I worked as a bookkeeper at a small accounting company called Garner and Associates. My job was not exciting. Nobody celebrated when I balanced a company's numbers. Nobody threw a party because the reports were correct. But if something was wrong, everyone noticed. That was my life. Quiet work. Invisible effort. The kind of work people only noticed when it stopped. 3 years earlier, I started a small catering business with my best friend Natalie Carter. We called it Bennett Kitchen. At first, it was just simple meals for neighbors. A birthday dinner here. A small office lunch there. But slowly, it grew. By the end of last year, we had several regular customers. A dentist office that ordered weekly lunches. A real estate company that needed food for meetings. Local groups that hired us for events. For the first time, I had built something that was mine. Not something my family gave me. Not something they assigned me. Not something they expected from me. Mine. My apartment looked strange to most people. I had more cooking tools than furniture. Cutting boards sat against the wall. Mixing bowls filled cabinets. A large professional mixer sat on my counter. Natalie handled deliveries and customers. I handled the cooking and finances. We built it together. And for the first time, I felt proud of myself. I cooked because I wanted to. Not because someone demanded it. But every November, the same thing happened. My phone would ring. And suddenly the 40 minutes between my apartment and my parents' house felt like nothing. Because my family needed me. Or at least, that was what they always said. My father, Richard Bennett, was 63 years old. He had retired early after working many years as a supervisor at a manufacturing company. He was used to giving orders. That was how he lived. At work, people listened because they had to. At home, he expected the same thing. He had a loud voice. Strong opinions. And a way of making every request sound like a responsibility. He had not cooked a real meal in decades. He believed the kitchen was not his place. My brother Tyler was 34. He sold cars at a dealership outside town. He drove an expensive truck. Spent money on weekends. And still lived in my parents' basement. For 6 years. He paid no rent. He cooked nothing. He helped with almost nothing. But Tyler was the son. And in my family, being the son meant something. My father always talked about Tyler's future. His plans. His success. Nobody talked about how he depended on everyone else. My mother Margaret was 61. She worked in a school cafeteria for 30 years. Every day she served hundreds of children. Then she came home and served the family. She never complained. At least, not loudly. She believed being needed was the same as being loved. And I learned that from her. When I was 14 years old, my grandmother Eleanor taught me how to make her famous pecan pie. I remember standing beside her in the kitchen. Flour covered my hands. There was some on my face too. She laughed and wiped it away. Cooking takes patience, she told me. She guided my hands while I rolled the dough. Then my father walked into the kitchen. He looked at me. Then he looked at my grandmother. And he smiled. Good, he said. Now Claire can handle Thanksgiving by herself. My grandmother stopped moving. Her hands froze over mine. She looked at my father. But she did not say anything. That was the moment everything changed. That year, I cooked my first holiday meal. I was 14. My brother Tyler was 17. He was upstairs playing video games. Nobody asked him to peel one potato. Nobody asked him to help. Because everyone already knew my role. I was the daughter. The helper. The person in the kitchen. 3 years ago, I discovered my parents were behind on their property taxes. The county had sent a warning. Their house was close to being taken. They owed $14,000. My parents were scared. But before they could figure out a solution, I handled it. I took out a personal loan. I paid the money. I saved their home. Then came the furnace. $6,800. I paid that too. Then the roof leaked. $11,000. Another check. Another problem solved. Nobody forced me. But nobody else stepped forward either. I told myself that was what family did. I helped because I loved them. But slowly, I realized something. Family only seemed to work when I was the one giving. 5 weeks before Christmas, I cooked Thanksgiving dinner. 14 people came. I made everything. Turkey. Stuffing. Green bean casserole. Mashed potatoes. Cranberry sauce. 2 pies. I started cooking at 6 in the morning. By noon, the entire house smelled like butter, herbs, and fresh bread. My back hurt. My feet hurt. But I kept going. Because that was what I always did. Tyler arrived late. He walked in at 1:15. Everyone was already eating. He grabbed a plate. Filled it. And stood in the hallway because he said the dining room was too crowded. When he finished, he left his plate on the counter. Then he took the last slice of pecan pie. Not asking anyone. Not even looking back. He carried it downstairs. Later, my father stood up at the table. He raised his glass. I want to thank everyone for being here, he said. This is what family is about. I waited. I thought maybe he would mention me. Maybe he would say thank you. But instead he said, our home is what matters. Our home. Not my cooking. Not the hours I spent. Not my tired hands. Just the house. The same house I helped save. I washed dishes for 2 hours afterward. My mother stood beside me drying plates. Her hands were red and swollen from years of work. I looked at her. Tyler could help, I said quietly. She lowered her voice. You know how he is. I looked at her. That was the problem. Everyone knew how Tyler was. And everyone knew how I was. The person who always said yes. The moment that hurt me the most came later. My cousin Emily tasted the pecan pie. "Claire, this is amazing," she said. "Is this Grandma Eleanor's recipe?" Before I could answer, Tyler called from the hallway. "Yeah, it's a family recipe." "A family recipe." I looked toward him. The same man who had never touched a rolling pin. The same man who never stood beside me while I cooked. But somehow, he owned the story. That night, I told myself something. Never again. I did not know how soon I would mean it. December 22nd. I was at my parents' house helping Margaret wrap gifts. There were ribbons everywhere. Boxes. Wrapping paper. Tyler had bought himself a new jacket and asked my mother to wrap it so it looked like someone else bought it. She did it without hesitation. The front door opened. Richard walked in. Tyler followed behind him. Both were smiling. My father leaned against the doorway. "Claire." I looked up. "Your brother's friends are coming here for Christmas." I already knew that tone. "How many?" I asked. Tyler crossed his arms. "About 25. My father smiled. "Only 25. I slowly put down the scissors. "Who is cooking?" My father looked confused. Like the question itself was strange. "Come on, Claire. You've done this 100 times." My mother was already opening cabinets. Already searching for ingredients. 30 years of following orders moved through her body before she even thought about it. I looked at my father. I looked at Tyler. The man who had not carried one grocery bag in years. Then I smiled. "Sure, Dad. I'll handle it." Tyler gave me a thumbs up. Then he walked downstairs. My father patted my shoulder. "That's my girl." I sat there after they left. My hands were calm. My breathing was normal. But inside, something had changed. I already knew. I would not be there on Christmas Day. That evening, I walked into the kitchen and checked what food we had. The answer was simple. Almost nothing. A few sauces. Some leftover meatloaf. Half a bag of frozen vegetables. That was it. To feed 25 people, I would need a full plan. Hundreds of dollars in groceries. Hours of preparation. And another Christmas where everyone sat comfortably while I disappeared into the kitchen. Tyler appeared in the doorway. He looked unusually excited. "So," he said, "my girlfriend Olivia is coming." I looked inside the refrigerator. "Your girlfriend?" "Yeah. We've been together for 4 months." He said it proudly. Like he was announcing something important. "Her last name is Parker," he added. I closed the refrigerator. "The Parker family?" He nodded. "Their insurance company has been around forever." "Of course." Olivia Parker came from a respected family. Her parents were known around town. Her father, Robert Parker, was successful. Her mother, Susan, was involved in everything. Tyler wanted to impress them. Then he continued. "Her parents are coming too." I looked at him. "And maybe her sister." He smiled. "So we need to make this really good." I stared at him. "This isn't just a party." Tyler looked confused. "What do you mean?" "This is an audition." But he did not understand. He only cared about looking good. "I need the full Christmas dinner," he said. "Olivia's mom is gluten-free." He started counting on his fingers. "Her dad cannot eat shellfish. Her sister is vegan." Then he pulled out his phone. "I'll send you the list." A second later, my phone buzzed. A list. Diet requests. Special meals. Requirements. From someone who had never once asked what I wanted. I looked at him. "And what exactly are you contributing?" Tyler looked around the kitchen. Then he spread his arms. The venue. The venue. That word stayed in my mind. The house. The house I helped save. The furnace I paid for. The roof I repaired. The place that would not even belong to him if I had not stepped in. Tyler acted like he was giving me a favor by letting me cook there. That night, I sat on the couch beside my mother. Richard was in his chair watching television. Tyler was downstairs. Margaret held an old recipe book. I was thinking ham and turkey this year, she said softly. Your grandmother always made both when we had more than 20 people. She said it kindly. Almost like she was inviting me into a tradition. But I knew better. It was another assignment. Mom, I asked. Why can't Tyler do some of it? Her hand stopped moving. She looked toward the basement. You know your brother. That answer. That same answer. He means well. I looked at her. But he doesn't cook. She nodded. Not everyone is a kitchen person. Kitchen person. Like it was something you were born with. Like some people were simply meant to serve. From his chair, my father spoke. Family comes first, Claire. I turned toward him. The man who only called when he needed something. Family comes first. I repeated his words. Okay, Dad. But inside, I remembered every time family came first. When I paid the tax bill. When the furnace broke. When the roof leaked. When I drove over late at night because someone needed help. I remembered every holiday. Every birthday. Every meal. Every time I said yes. But nobody ever asked when I would come first. Later that night, I stayed in the guest bedroom. The same room where I had slept many times before holidays. The same quilt my mother made from my old school clothes covered the bed. I planned to stay there and start preparing early. Then I heard Tyler downstairs. He was talking on the phone. His voice was loud. It always was. Nah, man. You don't need to bring food. A pause. My sister handles all that. I froze. She likes cooking. She's good at it. I sat on the bed. My heartbeat did not race. I was not angry. Something else happened. Something inside me became completely clear. I opened my phone. I started adding numbers. $14,000. The taxes. $6,800. The furnace. $11,000. The roof. $31,800. Money I spent keeping their home safe. Then I added everything else. Groceries. Gas. Years of holidays. Years of work. Years of being the person everyone depended on. Tyler was still talking. Laughing. He had no idea. I opened my laptop. I searched flights. Columbus to Maui. December 24th. One-way ticket. $462. I stared at the screen. For years, I had spent money making everyone else comfortable. This time, I spent money choosing myself. I entered my card information. The ticket was confirmed. I closed the laptop. Then I looked at the ceiling. The ceiling I helped keep from falling apart. Tyler was still laughing downstairs. He had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I went to Hopewell General Market. Not for Christmas food. I bought coffee. And a book for the flight. At the checkout, I saw Mrs. Harper. She had lived near my parents for decades. She touched my arm. Oh Claire, I heard about the big Christmas party. I smiled. Your father must be so proud. I gave the same polite smile I always gave. He always is. She walked away believing my family was perfect. I wondered what she would think after Christmas. My phone rang. It was Natalie. Claire, Henderson Manufacturing confirmed the holiday event. I listened. 20 guests. Full service. Then she asked. Can I pick up the equipment from your parents' garage tonight? I looked at my phone. Then I smiled. Yes. Come at 10. Natalie paused. She knew me. She knew when something was wrong. You okay? I answered honestly. For the first time in a long time. The equipment in that garage was not my family's. It belonged to Bennett Kitchen. The mixer. The serving trays. The heating dishes. Everything. I had stored it there because my apartment was too small. But my family slowly started acting like it belonged to them. Like my business was just another thing I gave away. Not anymore. That afternoon, Richard gave me another order. Pick up tables from the church. I looked at him. Dad. He stared. I'm not your event planner. His face changed. That disappointed expression. The one he always used. Family comes first, Claire. There it was again. The phrase. The excuse. Tyler walked through wearing a brand new shirt. Ready to impress Olivia. The price tag was still hanging from the sleeve. He had spent money on himself. Not the party. Not the food. Not anything. My mother was peeling potatoes. Her hands were swollen. Her fingers shook. I walked over. Mom. She looked up. Sit down. I'm fine. No. I gently took the peeler from her hand. Sit. She did. For a moment, nobody spoke. Only the sound of water dripping. I looked at her hands. Red. Painful. Tired. She had spent her entire life serving others. And I realized something. I loved my mother. But I was not going to become her. That night, Natalie called. Henderson wants extra guests. I smiled. How many? 20 more. I looked at the calendar. Christmas Day. A free dinner for my family. The next day. A paid event for my business. Two completely different worlds. One where I was treated like a worker. One where my work had value. I won't be available, I said. Natalie was silent. What do you mean? I'm going to Hawaii. Another silence. Then she laughed. Finally. She had seen everything. She knew how exhausted I was after every holiday. She knew I once fell asleep on my kitchen floor after Thanksgiving. You deserve this, she said. Take the week. That night, I discovered something else. Tyler was talking to Olivia. She doesn't mind, he said. My sister loves this stuff. She's been doing it forever. I stood outside the room. Listening. She's basically our maid, Tyler laughed. But she doesn't charge. My hand tightened around the paper I was holding. But I did not cry. I did not yell. I calmly walked away. Because those words finally explained everything. They did not see my love. They saw my usefulness. I went upstairs. Packed my bag. Then I called Aunt Evelyn. Aunt Evelyn was my father's older sister. She was the only person in the family who understood. She left home when she was young. She refused to repeat the same pattern. When she answered, I told her everything. The money. The meals. The party. Tyler's words. She listened quietly. Then she said. Your grandmother would have left years ago if she had somewhere to go. I looked at the ticket on my phone. I have somewhere to go. Where? Maui. A pause. Then she laughed softly. Good. I told her I would not be home for Christmas. She said. I'll be there. Your family needs to see something. What? The truth. Before leaving, I found something in the attic. Richard had asked me to get the old roasting pans. The attic was cold. Dust covered everything. Boxes filled the corners. Then I saw a small green box. It had my grandmother Eleanor's handwriting. Inside was a notebook. A holiday notebook. She had recorded every Christmas meal. Every guest. Every cost. Every year. I turned the pages. 18 guests. Food cost, $45. 12 guests. Food cost, $32. 22 guests. Food cost, $112. Page after page. Years of work. Years of proof. At the bottom of the last page were 4 words. 187 meals. Nobody asked how much. I sat on the attic floor. My grandmother knew. She knew nobody noticed. She knew nobody counted. But she counted. Because someone had to. I held the notebook against my chest. 3 generations. My grandmother. My mother. Me. The same kitchen. The same sacrifice. I took the notebook with me. Not as revenge. As a reminder. Someone finally needed to remember. That night, I made my final decision. I canceled the grocery order. I removed the catering equipment. Natalie came at 10. She loaded everything. The mixer. The trays. The serving dishes. All of it. Then I wrote a letter. Short. Simple. I left it on the kitchen counter. Dad. Then I packed my bag. 5 days of clothes. My phone charger. The notebook. And I walked out. I closed the door quietly. 3 generations of women had stood in that kitchen. I was the first one who walked away. The drive to the airport felt strange. Peaceful. For the first time, I was not rushing toward another responsibility. I boarded the plane. And while Ohio disappeared below me, I realized something. Nobody was calling. Nobody was asking. Nobody was ordering. For the first time in my life, I was free.